Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Church of Religious Science. Welcome to our Zoom call. Those of you who are with us live, those of you who have signed in for our meditation this morning, and a special welcome to all of you watching on any of the social media platforms. A special acknowledgement again to those of you who came on early for the meditation. We're all here creating this wonderful space. We're creating a space where we have a wonderful community. I want to talk about our weekly gatherings before we get into the lesson. Every Wednesday, Jimmy is facilitating a wonderful class. It's our Creative Living series at 7 p.m., the same Zoom links. And this is where we learn about spiritual principles and how to apply them to our day-to-day living. And Thursdays at 7, again, same Zoom links. We do our self-healing class, which is our Louise Hay class based upon the book, You Can Heal Your Life. That's a class that I've been doing for many years. It's a wonderful place to begin, connect. Lately, I've been noticing numbers, 150, 175 people, and it's incredible. And then another, I don't know how many hundred people watching it throughout the week. So thank you all for being a part of it. For those of you watching on YouTube, it would help us out a lot if you subscribe or our channel. Just choose it, select it, and that helps us grow. So also, everything we do is basically free. We do in our chat rooms, you'll see that you can support us with love offerings if you want to. There's no obligation. But we certainly appreciate the people who support us in any way they can. So today's theme, based upon a book I read many years ago and I refer back to from time to time, I thought it was wonderful, which was your erroneous zones. Today's theme is escaping your erroneous zones. So here we go. What if I told you that some of the biggest challenges in your life are not happening to you? They aren't happening outside of you. In other words, we have a tendency to think people are, doing things to us and the world is conspiring against us, but it really isn't that way. Most of the problems most of us have, most of the challenges are self-created to some extent. There's a saying in religious science, which is, religious science will say it this way: we are cause to our own experience. Now, that never suggests blame. And when I was younger, that's what I thought it meant. I'm the cause of my own experience. What that saying really is about is my consciousness is reflected in my life. The totality of my knowing, my conscious thoughts, my unconscious thoughts is reflected. It's mirrored in my life. So the things that are happening in my life, if I'm taking a metaphysical approach, aren't happening to me. They're happening through me. They're happening as a reflection of my consciousness. So today, what if right now you thought of yourself as having all these invisible barriers, or what we call erroneous zones, keeping you from demonstrating the life and the success and the joy that you really deserve? The good news is the barriers that are holding you back are not real. All of the things you think are holding you back are tied into the habits of thought that we've embraced. Maybe they've been with us for many years. Louise Hay would always say, you come into this world as a beautiful being of light and wonder. So what happened, right? Well, we grew up in families and we brought in a lot of information, and some of it was very good, wonderful, it kept us safe, and some of it doesn't really serve us too well. So today, like most days, we're working on freeing ourselves from all this type of stuff. So you might recognize the term your erroneous zones from that classic by Wayne Dyer. That work always challenged us to step beyond the story, step beyond the self-imposed limitations, step beyond the guilt, the fear, bring us back and realize who we are. We are one with this one energy. We are one with this one power. Our worth can't really even be it can't be evaluated. We are individualizations of this one life. And yet, we all have these blind spots. We call it BS, blind spots. We have erroneous zones. We have erroneous thinking. We have those places in our lives where we give our power away, where we let old insecurities or fears run the show, and we resist change for some reason. But what if we could spot them and recognize them, walk through them? Because they're not real. We put a lot of energy to them. I did another talk recently on fear, the acronym FEAR, false evidence appearing very real. So we get caught up in it. But the things that we're afraid of have no reality, in truth. So we want to learn how to free ourselves. What if we could move away from these states of doubt and bring ourselves to a place of certainty? What if we could move from a place of fear to a place of trust where you can trust the process of life? What if we could move from stagnation to expansive growth and happiness and joy? Again, from fear to trust. From these places where we're caught up to having an expansive place, where we just trusting the goodness of life. So today we're talking about dealing with our erroneous zone. Erroneous zones are false ideas, the habitual thinking. Often these are the places where we trip ourselves up in consciousness. You might ask, how do I begin to identify my erroneous zones? Well, I talk about this phenomena in different ways in different weeks. We have all this thinking, and energetically, it's the negative thinking which is what gives you the clue. When we're trusting the process of life, generally we're feeling energetically pretty positive, pretty good. So it begins with awareness. We must first recognize where we're giving our power away. We must recognize when we're off, where we have bought into false ideas and bought into false notions. We must take a look where we're letting fear to enter into our world, or where we feel guilty and we're letting fear and guilt dictate our actions. Ernest Holmes tells us in the textbook, we must learn to control our mental forces, just as we learn to control physical forces. So Dr. Holmes was saying there's power for good in the universe greater than you, of which you are a part. And then he went on to say, and you can use it. So he's saying that we live in this energy, we move in it, and it responds to us. We can use it constructively. If you're not using it constructively, if you're doing negative thinking, if you're filled with guilt and fear, then it's going to reflect that. So our thoughts can be used. We can learn to control our mental forces. So these are not patterns. These are patterns that we have a great deal of control over. So here's the truth. Just because a thought has been in our mind for a long time, it doesn't mean that it belongs there. Let's consider this. Have you ever felt unworthy of success or love or happiness? Have you ever told yourself, this is just the way I am? I can't help it. Things never work out for me. I'm just unlucky. If you're doing these things, you're saying these things, these are definitely erroneous zones. They're false ideas. They're self-imposed limits, and they're entirely optional. They're optional. A classic erroneous zone is seeking approval from outside. So a lot of people grow up learning to seek the approval of your mother, your father, your teacher, parents, society. And there's nothing really wrong with receiving love and appreciation from all these people. But when our happiness depends upon their approval, you see adults, when your happiness depends upon people, places, and things telling you you are okay, then we've stepped into an erroneous zone. The moment we believe someone else's opinion defines our worth, we have handed them a lot of power. Another common erroneous zone is all the fear-based thinking. And a lot of people are full of fear. Again, false evidence appearing real. We hesitate if we're fearful to take action because we're afraid of failing. We're afraid of what people will say, what they will think. We're afraid of making mistakes, so we stay stuck. But Ernest Holmes teaches us that fear is only faith pointed in the wrong direction. That was Holmes. Fear is only faith that's pointed in the wrong direction. Instead of having faith in failure, and this is what fearful people do, we can place our faith in possibility. We can place our faith in growth. And we can place our faith in the infinite intelligence that's already in us, supporting us all the time. Another powerful erroneous zone, modern language, is codependency. And this affects people, many people, especially those who've given too much of themselves for too long. That term, codependency, happens when we prioritize other people's needs, other people's feelings, or we take on everyone else's problems, and we're not really loving ourselves or taking good enough care of ourselves. Louise Hay offered the antidote to so much of that when she said, when you really, really love yourself, everything begins to work. So it's not that taking care of others is not good. In fact, it's wonderful. But when we prioritize other people's lives and feelings and problems over our own well-being, that's where it becomes problematic. So, you met the people, maybe you're one, you feel responsible for everybody, feel responsible for fixing. You maybe feel like you have to rescue. Maybe you're trying to do things for people when really they really ought to be doing them for themselves. Maybe when you're doing that, you're actually denying them the opportunity that they have to heal. And anyway, when we're doing this, when we're being codependent, we're doing it at the expense of our own inner happiness, our joy, and our peace. So this can be manifest in many ways. Sometimes people will feel guilty when they say no to somebody, or you'll feel that your love must be earned through sacrifice. Or maybe I've known friends like this in the recovery programs where rescuing other people from their problems, instead, as I mentioned before, instead of allowing them to grow and work through their problems, or possibly you're feeling uncomfortable when you're prioritizing just doing things that are good and right for yourself. One of the greatest truths we can realize is this: we are not responsible for other people's happiness. I'll say it again. We are not responsible for other people's happiness. That's not in relationships, that's not in jobs, it's anywhere. We are responsible for our own happiness. Love does not mean losing yourself to please others. True love is born from wholeness, not self-sacrifice. Again, true love is born from wholeness. You see the other people as whole and complete. You see yourself as whole and complete. So we don't want to lose ourselves to please other people. So let's take this just a little bit deeper with a question or two to help identify if there's any erroneous zones operating in your life. You might consider a couple of these questions. Just notice, is there some place where you're waiting permission to be happy? Is there something that's holding you back from stepping into something you know is meant for you? Is there a place where you're waiting for permission somehow, or from someone or something? And then what fear or fears, what's stopping you from making a decision? What's stopping you from making a decision that you know is right for you? Another question, do you believe you must struggle, or do you believe you must suffer? Or do you believe you must do something to prove something, to prove your worth? Or is there some other area where you feel stuck? And is it possible that you're holding on to a belief of some kind that keeps you in this place? You might ask yourself, who am I trying to please? And what would happen if I stopped seeking their approval and I just let go and I just did what I needed to do? Another question, am I living a life based on old programming? In other words, it'd be like you're trying to do things that your mother or father taught you 40, 50 years ago. Are you living your life based on old programming that really doesn't serve you anymore? Another question, am I giving way too much to others and not really taking care of myself as well as I ought to? Or do I feel guilty when I take care of myself, when I take a break, when I take a day off? Do I feel guilty when I put my own needs first? So if you're answering yes to some or really any of these questions, you might want to think about making some changes, some adjustments. So let's take a moment right now. You could close your eyes if you'd like, or certainly center yourself and ask yourself, what am I holding on to? What am I holding on to that I could release? What situation, what situation am I holding on to that's not really working out well? Where, if anywhere, am I keeping myself small? So whatever comes to mind, just make a mental note of it. And breathe in the awareness that all is well. Breathe into the awareness. And as you do, knowing that you're one with the one, know that freedom is already beginning to take root. I often say that we're all evolving, we're all evoluting along, as Dr. Bill used to say. And everyone's doing the best that they can with what they know at any given point in time. And we got nothing to say really about where anyone is, because we're all spiritual beings. We're having an experience and we're growing and we're evolving. And Louise would add that I trust in the process of life. We're all becoming more. And as we expand, as we become more, we're breaking free. So we're unfolding in terms of greater freedom. We're expanding. We certainly might be in different places, but we're all unfolding in terms of greater expansion, greater wisdom, greater freedom. Wayne Dyer in that book helped us to begin by looking at these areas or zones where our thinking has been running on what we'll call autopilot. I'm always teaching or suggesting that we inquire within. Louise, I would say, deep in the center of your being is this infinite well of information, this love, this light. You have direct access to it because you are an individualization of it. Because everything, all the knowledge in the world is available to you. You're not distant from it, you're a part of it. There's a part of you that always knows. And once you tap into it, once you take a pause and tap in, you're going to know where you've been stuck. And that's great because that's the first part of it. Because once you know that then you become aware of what the work is. The real work begins. So we want to be able to spot it, recognize it. We want to spot the lesser ideas, the erroneous patterns, so we can dismantle them. So we can acknowledge them, and so we can replace them. We want to catch ourselves. We want to dismantle false thinking, false ideas, critical thinking. So there's a lot of work for us to do, those of us who are attempting to live this affirmative life. We do quite a bit of affirmations, affirmative prayers, because we want to do more than just recognize these negative tendencies. We know that our thoughts are powerful, and we want to dismantle the negative ones. Some of you might be thinking of yourself, oh my God, if he only knew how negative I am, if he really knew me. And here's the thing, all of us have negative thoughts. And we begin wherever we are. It's a practice. Those of us who tune in often here, 2-3 times a week, and we do our work throughout the week, we're making real progress. We begin wherever we are, one thought at a time. We don't just cancel out the old thinking. We replace it with something more life-giving, with something greater and something true. This is what we do. We practice affirmative living. Now, you might have been thinking a certain way for a long time. It might be the same way your grandparents thought and people before you. Our minds, I'm reminded, operate a lot like a well-worn trail, if you can think of a trail in the country. The more we think a certain thought, the deeper the groove becomes. The brain is a little bit like it. And the brain is ever efficient because it starts choosing the path of least resistance, repeating the same pattern over and over because they feel familiar. These erroneous zones, they're nothing more than old, reinforced pathways. So that habitual negative thinking, that habitual self-doubt is going to be there when you start something new because it's a well-worn groove. So to really turn things around, we really have to work at it. And that seems true for us. It's just habituated thoughts, so it seems true. Some of you might even feel guilty when you put yourself first because you got this well-worn groove because you've been taught to take care of other people first and all the time. There's a fear there. There's a fear of the unknown that keeps us from stepping forward. Another well-worn groove. But here's the key. Here's the miracle. You are not bound by your past wiring. You're not bound by what you've done for the past 10, 20 years. You're not bound by anything. In religious science, we have an expression, which is this divine principle is not bound by anything. Principle is not bound by the past. It's not bound by what you've done. You get to be in a new moment. You have tremendous power at your disposal. So this divine principle that we talk about every week is not bound by anything. The moment you focus and you take a pause and you bring your conscious awareness to any of these negative patterns, erroneous patterns, the moment you say to yourself, I'm supplied and supported, when you're going through anything that's negative, you're going to weaken that pattern. The moment you introduce a new thought, a higher idea, greater frequency, a fresh possibility, that old groove starts to dissolve. Ernest Holmes reminds us, the thought is father to the deed. Again, the thought is father to the deed. And he said, what we persistently recognize, we become. That's a powerful sentence or two. Our thinking is the father to the deed, and what we persistently focus on, we become. So you know what he's telling us to do, or he's suggesting we do. We want to really release the need for any of these negative states of consciousness. We just release the need for it. Stop mid-sentence. Pay attention to your thoughts, your thinking, your words. This means every single time we choose a new thought over an old limitation, we're literally rewiring our future. So let's break it down into 3 powerful steps that maybe we can commit to. The first is, let's be committed to trading in the lesser for the greater across the board. Whatever energetically is holding you back, let's be committed to releasing it, trading in the lesser for the greater. Religious science is not just about denying the lesser thought. It's about replacing it and affirming it with the truth. If we merely say, I don't want to be afraid anymore, it's not enough. We must replace it. Instead of releasing fear, we want to step into trust. Instead of letting go of guilt, we claim our worthiness. Instead of breaking free of doubt, we anchor into certainty. Affirmative prayer is our most powerful tool here. It's not a plea to a God above. Affirmative prayer is a declaration. I recognize and I know, right? So let's do that right now. Think of a limiting idea that's held you back in any way, whether it could be many. Doesn't matter what the limiting idea is, just something that you think has been in your way. And now, declare, I release this lesser idea. I no longer need it. I trade it in for something greater. So let's replace it by saying, I now step fully into confidence, into trust. I step into the highest truth of my being. I'm ready. I'm free. I'm whole. The moment we consciously choose a new truth, we begin laying down a fresh pathway. Again, you can say, I release this idea. I no longer need it. I trade it in for something better, something greater. And then you're going to replace it with doesn't have to be my words, but replace it by saying, I declare, I step fully into confidence, into trust, into the highest truth of my being. I'm ready, I am free, I'm whole, and so it is. And the moment you do that, you're consciously choosing a new truth. You're laying down a fresh pathway. The second step, meditate and realize that you are one with the one. Just take that time, take that pause, and know that deep in the center of your being is this energy, this love, this intelligence, and it's in you and it's a part of you. Know that you're one with it and you have the power. One of the greatest falsehoods we've ever believed is that we're separate from this energy. We think that this God, this energy is somewhere else. We think that we're separate from the source of all power. We couldn't be any more wrong. We live in it, we move in it, we have our essence in it. You're not separate from it. You never have been separate from it. Wayne Dyer said it this way: you are not a human being having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. And what does this mean? It means that every answer, every resource, every solution you seek is already within you, because you are one with this intelligence, this energy that created the universe. You're not limited. You're not powerless. You're not alone. Right now, let's affirm this. Let's affirm I am one with the infinite power of the universe. All wisdom, all love, all creativity flows through me now. I'm connected to unlimited possibilities. And so it is. We have the third step for us today. I want us to anchor in new pathways with action. It's not enough just to think differently. We've talked about this in recent talks. We must act differently. Every erroneous zone was built through repetition and habit. That means we must override these old thoughts and ideas with new experiences. We must override it with ones that prove the old story false. So let's think about this. If you've always believed you're not a leader, go lead something. Again, if you've always believed you're not a leader, today I'm encouraging you to go lead something. If you've always believed you're bad at receiving, start saying yes to help. If you've always believed that life is hard, then consciously look for evidence that life is supporting you. Here's your action step. Pick one erroneous belief that has been holding you back. Just one. Right now, decide on one small action that contradicts that erroneous belief. Number 3, commit to doing it today. Again, pick one erroneous belief that has been holding you back. 2, decide on one small action that contradicts that belief. And 3, commit to doing it today. Because once you start taking action, however small, the illusion starts falling apart. So let's step into our true power now. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself standing in the center of a great, radiant light. This light represents source, spirit, infinite energy, intelligence. It's all around you. It's within you. It's moving through you. Wonderful, healing light. Let yourself relax in it, breathe it in. Feel this power, this beautiful power within you radiating through you. And as you exhale, release all old limitations, any doubts. And with every breath, you are aligning yourself with your true self, your limitless, powerful, unstoppable self. Now say to yourself, I am limitless, I am free, I am one with the infinite intelligence. Nothing is missing. Nothing is broken. All that I seek is already within me. Feel the truth of these words. Let them settle into your being. And when you're ready, open your eyes. So let me do a closing affirmation, a declaration of power. You could say this with me. I'm not bound by my past. I release every erroneous thought, every erroneous zone that has ever held me back. I now step into my highest truth, my greatest power, and my limitless potential. I'm one with the infinite. I have all the wisdom, all the strength, and all the love I will ever need. Life is for me. Life supports me. And I'm definitely free. And so it is. So this is how we'll escape all this erroneous thinking, not by fighting the past, but by claiming a new moment, a new future. Because you were never meant to place your life as small. You were never meant to stay in the old story. You're here to live fully, to expand beyond the old limitations, and to claim a life that was meant for you. And that journey has begun. So let's take a deep breath one more time together. Right here, right now, we release the need to hold on to anything. We let go of everything that's every limiting idea, every limiting belief that's held us back. We're no longer bound by fear. We're no longer defined by doubt. We step into the infinite truth of who we are, powerful, whole, and free. And so it is. I have a little poem for you, which I was going to put into the lesson. I'll read it now. It's called Letting Go. Let go of the weight you were never meant to carry. Let go of the story that no longer works or no longer serves you. Let go of the voice that says you're not enough. Let go of all of it, for you are more than enough. You are infinite. You are free. And so it is. So now it's time for anyone and everyone to share. We have a moment or two for everyone on the call. So raise your hands, say hello, let us know where you're from, let us welcome you. Thank you for being with us today, all of you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for your love. Again, we have time, I think, for everyone who wants to share. So I'm turning the cameras over to you. Thank you.